morning, everyone, or evening, or wherever it is you are, whatever time zone you're in. It's Kate Richburg, and it's Friday. That must mean it's Free Tip Friday. It's great to have everybody here with me. And we're going to make some wire earrings today. We're going to have a lot of fun doing that. I'm super excited to share, moving the camera around a little bit, to share this technique with you. I'm going to see everybody jumping on. I see you guys there. That's awesome. I'm going to grab my phone and make sure I can see you guys on the feed. And then we're going to jump right in. And there it says. It says I'm live right now. Perfect. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Let's see. Let's get these comments going. All right. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it there. Let me get it all set up. You know, on our Free Tip Fridays, you know, I kind of do this on my own. So I have to be camera woman. I have to be moderator. I'm doing it all. So because everyone's busy getting your orders out. So thanks for hanging in there with me. Well, it's great to see you. I'm looking at the comments down here. Hello, or maybe I should look at them over here. It's like, you know, which camera do I look at, or which screen do I look at? Well, it's great to see everybody. Hi, Jean. It's great to have you watch. We're so excited that you join our broadcasts. It's great to see you. Okay, and there's our Tammy. Hello, Tammy. Good morning. Good morning. We have a really fun topic for you today, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of the project and why I'm doing it, and then I'll scroll through in a little bit. If you have some questions and stuff, I'll scroll through those questions and answer them all at once. So don't fear if I miss your question. I'll get back to it. Okay. So, oh, am I just the lighting? Hi. Let me see if I can. It may be we're having a little bit of a rainstorm, so let me see if I can check that lighting here just real quick. Maybe it's a little bit better. I don't want to be washed out, that's for sure. There we go. Is that better? That might be as good as I can get it for now. So let's see how that looks. Alrighty, settle back in. Okay, so the history of this project, or the inspiration for this project, comes from one of our members on our Facebook group, beadshop.com, the bead table, and her name is Tracy Watson. And Tracy posted in the group a really great series. You guys may remember, those of you who are in there, you guys may remember the pieces. She did a couple of great wrap bracelets, a smaller, like Tahoe-like bracelet, and she did this cool earring that caught my attention, and I think caught the attention of a lot of you in the group. So that was kind of my inspiration today. I wanted to do some hammering, so I grabbed my bench block and I grabbed my chasing hammer, and I thought it would be kind of a cool way. You know, I've been talking about doing much more wire working, so I thought it would be a cool way to kind of hammer it out with you today. So this is my interpretation of Tracy's cool project. Now, if you're not part of our Facebook group, we have two Facebook groups, just to kind of clarify. We have our regular business page, our Facebook, our beadshop.com, the one you're watching on right now, this live. We also have, if you search Facebook and you type in beadshop.com, the bead table, it'll take you to our kind of private group. And the private group is for fans and customers and whoever wants to be a part of kind of our bead shop community. A lot of cool stuff goes on over there. So if you want to be a part of that, just click on over, search Facebook, ask to join. There's 3 little questions that you need to answer, and then we'll jury you in, and you'll be a part of a great team. There's really so much beautiful stuff that's being posted there, and it does center around bead shop projects and products, but it's really, really great inspiration. So I'm super gratified that you guys love it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this camera around, and then I'll look at some questions, and then we'll get started. Alrighty, so let me get this camera going. We'll do this. I'm going to circle us around. You'll see my notes. You'll see my screen. See, look at that as we go off into infinity, which is kind of cool. I always like that part. You can see all my setup here as I'm doing this. There I am on my phone. So let me set this all up. I kind of like this this perspective, and I think that you guys kind of do as well. So it takes me a moment to kind of move things around. But thank you for kind of bearing with me as I move my set. Where's my production assistant, right? Where are they? Alrighty. So we're here. I think you can see my hands pretty well. I'm going to pull this out just a little bit here. And it looks like you guys are amusing yourselves with saying hello to everyone, which I love. So just hang in there while I move everything around. So give me some hearts and see. I think you guys can see this pretty well. I'll be hammering. Let me get the other screen out of the shot a little bit more. Okay. This isn't too bad, I think. I've got all of my tools and materials I'm going to need. Whoops. I have one spool of my wire, but what happened to my other one? There we go. Make sure I've got it all. And this looks pretty good, I think, right? Okay, and you guys can see okay, right? As I'm working, I'm working. Let me just make sure I have the tools out that I need. And then we'll jump in. Do you, Ginger, the okay? That's so funny that you counted how many times. I think it's because that's my little encouragement that I gear myself up and I go, okay, we're going to get started. So I'll have to think of a new one, Ginger, or maybe we can make that our drinking game. How many times does Kate say okay? It's a good game. Alrighty, so how about that one? We'll count how many times I say so. Let me adjust the screen. Let me get us good. Good. All right. I think this is all right. Okay, fantastic. Alrighty. I know, Tammy, I know you should be here for this broadcast. I can have you get in here and learn how to run this camera. Thank you for the love on my ring. I had a little making day in my studio around New Year's, and I made myself a new piece, so that's what it's kind of obnoxiously big, but I kind of love it. So anyway, I've got that going on. Get that a little bit smaller if you guys can see. Okay. Alrighty, perfect. So let me talk a little bit. Let me scroll through here just real quick and see what I've got. Looks like we're good. Okay. Well, welcome everybody who's watching from all over, and I see a few of you are watching for the first time, which is awesome. So welcome. What I'm going to do after this broadcast is I'm going to put the particulars up on our blog. Our blog is also called The Bead Table, but you just search blogger The Bead Table, or there's a link from our website on beadshop.com. So there's lots of there'll be lots of info and a list exactly of what I'm using on there as well. Okay, so if you guys want to replicate this, you can do that. But so all that info will be there. Alrighty, I think I am set. So what you're going to need, what this is going to center around, is hammering with this bench block and this chasing hammer. Now, when Janice was doing some hammering, the reason we got these bench blocks and hammers in, I don't know, it was a broadcast we did a while back where we were hammering something, and Janice gets out the breadboard and the household hammer, and she says, this is what I hammer with. And I said, Janice Parsons, you're a crazy woman. So we ordered in a bench block and a hammer. So, and there's our Gita. Gita, it's great to see your bright and shining linking fingers this morning. Thank you so much. So wonderful. What would we do without our moderator from Denmark? Thank you so much. So our bench block and our chasing hammer, so we have some proper things to be hammering with. Okay. And there was a question about this earlier. Krista, you asked, can you show us an example of what you're making? Well, you know, I can't because I actually haven't made it yet. So Krista, you'll see the example as as it evolves, and then I'll have a nice finished photo of it for you later here on the Facebook page as well as on the blog. Okay. So, so this is what I hammer with. I hammer with it here at Bead Shop. I hammer this hammer using a bench block and a chasing hammer in my studio when I make metal jewelry. I use these on the road when I teach class. So this is a good, sturdy metal smithing tool. It's really a once-in-a-lifetime buy, and it's something that's going to last you a good long time. We had a question in our Facebook group that asked about metal tools, and sometimes you can get rust on metal tools because they are steel, right? One of the things I recommended was to periodically I go over my metal tools with a little bit of WD-40, maybe a little bit of fine steel wool, and if you do get any of those rust marks, you can just buff them out. Your metal will discolor a little bit where the rust was, but it's not going to hurt your piece at all. So if you do have a little bit of rust, a little bit of WD-40, buff it out, and you're going to be in fine shape. Okay, so for the earring today, these are some of the materials I'm going to be using. I've got some craft wire. Now, you may have some wire at home that you can use. I pulled in 2 gauges of wire. I've got a 20 gauge and I've got an 18 gauge. Now, I had 2 styles of kind of earrings in mind. And I'm going to use 20 gauge from one and 18 gauge with the other. But we're going to make an armature with these. So I'm going to start with the 20 gauge. Okay, so let's see. Yes, artistic wire, you sure can. The coatings, this one is the gold, so the plating stays on there very well, but most of the artistic wire, at least the artistic wire that I've had experience with, and I've had experience with quite a lot, is fine, especially if you're not really getting too crazy with your hammering. It should be just fine. So I'm going to take off a length of wire, and I don't know how much I'm going to cut, maybe about 6 inches, I guess, or so. And I'm going to use my beloved Xuron cutter, my flush cutter, to cut that away. And then we're just going to shape this into a nice little rectangular shape. So you can see that my wire, it's a little bendy. So I'm going to use my nylon jaw plier here. I'm going to straighten everything out, okay? And look at how that straightens, and it also slightly starts to work harden this wire, which is not a bad thing in this case, because this earring is going to be an armature. And I know I don't have a sample, so the earring's going to be a surprise to you and perhaps to me. Alrighty, so here's my 6-inch piece of wire. I've got my chain nose pliers here, just a nice simple bit of chain nose. And a lot of times when I'm kind of working off the cuff, as they say, I'll use my tool to help me measure. Okay, so I'm going to start in the middle of my wire, and I'm going to use my tool here as kind of my guide, and I'm going to bend my wire up, and this is my 20 gauge, okay, and I'm going to bend my wire up to the side and use the sides of this tool, see that there, to create that nice sharp bend. It's getting a little tighter so you can see that. Okay, there we go. And you can see, again, I just put that in there in my chain nose, and I use the sides of my chain nose pliers to make that nice crisp bend. Okay, yeah, drink each time I say okay. Perfect, Ginger, Perfect. Now, I'll use my ruler, though in real life, honestly, you guys, I probably wouldn't use a ruler, but I want you to see the length I'm making. So let's go, so I don't have to fill it up too much. I'm going to make these 1 inch long. I could go 1.5 inches, I could go 2 inches, but for today, we'll go 1 inch. And I'll just kind of put my thumb there, and I'll bend at a right angle, line it up, bend at a right angle. So it's about the same. So I've made a little rectangle. Yeah, Eileen, all I do is you would just, you know, when I'm trying to make that angle, I'll do it on this wire here. I'll use the side of my tool to just push down at that right angle. And that kind of, my tool is kind of my jig that helps me make that good crisp angle. So now I've got this rectangle here, and I'm just going to eyeball it. I'm going to get it a little bit tighter here so you guys can see this. I'm going to use my tool. I'm going to eyeball the center, though I could, if you were really being particular. I could even measure if I wanted, or I could get my permanent marker, make a little mark. It doesn't want to mark on my wire there. There we go. See that? Make a little mark there. And then I could use that mark as my guide. And I'm going to bring it up at 90 degrees. And one goes up, and then this other one is just going to come around and wrap. Okay. Now I want to adjust this a little bit. So you can see I've lost a little bit of my good angle. So let's fix it. I'll come in and I'll sharpen up those edges. Okay. And if I want to make it even, I'll just sharpen everything up. Let the tool do the work. Okay. And then so I've got a nice armature. Now this part here, this wire, I don't know what's going to happen with it. I'm going to cut away a little bit, but I'm going to leave it because I don't know quite yet what I want to do with this. Okay, this is when I'm designing on the fly. I like all of my options. So now here comes the fun part. Shall we hammer? Let's hammer. And you can see if I bring this up pretty close to the camera, you guys can see that the wire is nice and round. But if we flatten this wire on our bench block, not only is the wire going to become flat, but it's going to become work hardened. So let's go ahead and hammer this flat. I'm going to get the my chasing hammer, and I'm going to let my hammer do the work. It's not like I am building a roof, right, or nailing shingles into a roof where I'm hammering super hard. I'm just letting the hammer hit the surface of the bench block. All right, so here it comes. I'm hammering in, not using too much force. And notice how I'm hanging my hand, everything off the side of the bench block here. Now I'll flip, and I'll hammer the other side. Again, light taps. Get in there to the corners. And you can see here, if I bring it up a little closer, how I've got a nice hammered armature now. You can see the wire splayed a little more here. I didn't hammer so evenly. So I can come in and make that a little more even. Or I can say, that's okay with me. Either way. But let me just even that out. Notice, you guys, how I'm striking. I want to really make sure you see this. How I'm almost striking and sweeping the hammer down. Like so. That helps to get, that planishing motion gives me, lets me flare my wire out a little bit more. And no, so when I sharpen up the lines, no, with the pliers, it doesn't mark the wire. What you don't want to do is, I'm going to move this bench block out of the way. What you don't want to do, everybody, and I'll do this on the 18 gauge, when you're bending the wire or working the wire with your pliers, you want to ease up on your death grip on this tool, okay? So many, I think, beginning wire workers, or, I don't know, advanced wire workers too, I do it. So you want to have that light touch, and you also want to use both of your hands working at the same time. So if I have my tool here, I'm holding it in my right hand, and I'm bending with my left hand, I'm coming in and I'm moving both hands at the same time. So that tool acts as a little jig to shape my wire. But then if I come in and I sharpen it, I'm just giving it a slight little hug, kind of like when we're crimping a crimp tube with the crimping plier, right? We're not killing it. And it doesn't, no, John, not at all. You can see there's no damage to that coating either. Yeah, Trish, a rubber hammer or a plastic mallet will also work. It won't flatten your wire. And you don't need to flatten your wire. You don't have to. Your wire just needs to be work hardened slightly. This is a heavier gauge. I think there was a question, I'm not sure I had the question a way back. I think, Lisa, you said, do you have to hammer the wire or can you leave it round? We can leave this round for sure, especially since this is a gauge up. This is an 18 gauge wire, so it's a little heavier. It's a little less malleable. What you can also do is you can use your wire plier or your nylon jaw plier and see how I can straighten this out with that tool, like so. And that straightening, see how that's really work hardened it. So I'll go ahead and leave this one round as a contrast, and we'll have that one flattened. Okay? So let's move back. Let's move to our 20 gauge wire here. Let me make this a little bit bigger. And the piece that Tracy did, and you guys, some of you have seen it, but some of you may not have. She had an armature, pardon me, she had an armature that she made, and she filled the opening with some beads. And I think she used shadows and stuff. It might have been a little larger, okay, of a bead, but I thought that I would scale it down just a touch. So what I have here, let me get in a little closer so you guys can see. I have some, you know what these are, and let's all say it together, shall we? Everybody around the world. Kate's favorite bead is a little shadow. That's right. At least today it is. It usually is. And I've got this in the brass. And then what I have here, I've got the Picasso Montana matte. It's 8-4516 TB, and I love the Picasso finish of these. And then I also threw in some of the copper tribal hishi. And I don't even know if I'm going to use all these beads right now, honestly, because, but I just pulled a little palette that I thought would work together. So you can use, I'm going to do some weaving with thread to get my beads in the center here. And you can decide what thread it is you want to use. I couldn't really tell what thread Tracy used. You could use Ceylon, could use a lot of different threads. You could also do the same thing with wire. It doesn't have to be thread. But I haven't had my hands on Irish wax linen in a while, and this is the chocolate color. And what I like about Irish wax linen is it's almost like a hybrid between wire and thread. And I say that because it's waxed. So it's nice and stiff like this. So I can go through a lot of beads with it. And yet it's super flexible and adds an interesting fiber element to the piece. So that's why I chose it. So I'm going to cut off, I don't know how much thread I will cut. I'm going to say maybe 20 inches, about, maybe a little more. 24 inches, that's what I'm going to do. I want it to be short enough that I don't have too much thread to fuss with, but long enough that I don't have to add thread. So again, this is just right off the cuff, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. So I'm going to tackle this like I would be laddering a little. Not a little. That's how I'm going to tackle this. So I'm going to put on enough beads that are going to fit across this armature. So let me figure out what I'm going to do with this. I'll put on a shadow. I'll put on a Montana 8/0. I'll put on a Hishi. I'll put on a Montana. I'll put on a shadow. And let's see. Will the wax come off after a while? You know, Tilly, not really. Especially on an earring. It won't. I have things that I've strung on Irish wax linen for years, and it holds up really, really nicely. So you can see I put on that length, and it's a little long. I'm going to tighten this up so you guys can see this a little bit better. My hand, this hand is kind of in the way. I'm going to reposition just a little bit, you guys, because I don't want to block what you're seeing. So bear with me here for just a second. Let me move this over. There we go. And let me know if you're having trouble seeing or if I'm blocking. I really want you guys to be able to see this. So I'm going to take off these shadows, and we're just going to use these guys to start. Okay, there we are. I'm going to bring these down to the center of my thread. And just like we do with laddering, bear with me here. I just want to, I didn't like that position with my hands. I'm just going to move the camera just slightly here, you guys. Bear with me just a moment while I reconfigure. There we go. How's that? It's not great. Sorry, I'm struggling a little bit here. Mimi, we are doing an earring that Tracy, one of our bead table members, did and posted. So it's my interpretation of that earring. I should have just left this camera alone, right? Shouldn't I have? That was poor thinking. Alrighty. Let me get in the shot. You guys can kind of see that. I really want to be close. There we go. Let's see. I'm going to check the view. Sorry, you guys, about that, but I really want you to see. Let's see how that looks. Give me some thumbs up if you can kind of see. That's not too bad. Alrighty. So I've taken that shadow away. Let me continue with what we're doing. I've taken that shadow away, and now I'm just going to come around the top and underneath and underneath on this side, like so. There we go. And you can see that's just going to sit right down there at the bottom. And now I'm going to go ahead and add another row of beads on. Let's add just a row of shadows. And I bet 3 of these shadows will work across. They will. Then I'm going to get my other piece of wax linen, and this is really where it's going to show if this works well. The thing that I like about this wax linen is it makes its own needle, really. And you can, there we go, look at that. So see how, let me put this back on. Like any laddering project, your first go round getting it set up. There we go, look at that. I think that looks pretty cool. So now I'm just going to go underneath like I would be laddering. I'm going to go on this side here. And this side here with my little legs to the side underneath. There we go. So now I'm just going to continue my laddering. So here's, maybe I'll do just a row of the Montana, those A dots. Bring those guys on. Slide this over. I am way out of camera range, aren't I? There we go. Slide this on. Come in from the other side. And slide my other end of the Irish wax linen through the shadows. And see here, once I get it through, you get both of these strands. Even it up, bring it around, and there's my second row. Look at that, that's looking okay. Get up a little closer so you guys can see it. So now, I know, patience. Yeah, it would make a great pendant. I think maybe if I start this again, you can see on the back, actually the back is looking, this actually might be the front part of this. You can see. Okay, so let's just do it again. We pass it underneath. We're getting this, it's coming together. Passing it underneath. That's what I like about Free Tip Fridays, you guys. A lot of learning happens when you just experiment at your bead table, right? You don't have to have it all planned out. I'm telling you. Let's go ahead and make it another, let's do another row of shadows, shall we? I think that looks like what comes next. I've got some little shadows in a tube here. Are twins but sisters. Why does that make you cringe, Ginger? I like earrings that don't always match. Sisters, not twins. They don't have to be exactly the same. They really, really don't. Just ask 80s me. when I wore one long earring and one short earring for about 2 years running, right? There's the shadows on one leg, and my linen goes in the other way. Pull on both sides, just as if we were laddering, making a laddered bracelet. There we go. Look at that. So there's that row. Now, what do? We go under the sides. Let's go under the sides. And since I started out, and that wax linen, you guys, it's really grabbing onto the sides of this wire. I really like it. So let's add another, like this row that's here, that has the tribal he-she in it. Let's do that row. Let's repeat it. Right, Eileen, asymmetrical, that's right. You're a punk rocker in high school. Hey, you're still a punk rocker. You never lose that. At least that's what I tell myself, that I never lose my punk rock cred. But now my husband and I joke with each other that, tell me about punk rock, Granddad. So, you know. So I guess we like to think we never lose it, right? So we'll slide that back through. And if your linen, wax linen, is getting a little soft, go ahead and just kind of pull it all back together. You can even trim it. That's why we have some extra thread on the end. Or if it's not working for you, go to your needle box and grab a needle. Let me grab a collapsible, or a flexible eye needle, rather. This flexible eye. Little wire needle. And let's have that help us guide this through. Let's see if the needle works. I don't want to struggle too much. And yeah, Trish, we can also always wax it, that's for sure. But there you go. See how that helps it slide right through. Just coach yourself through it. So, we've got, we turn it right side up. There we go. So I would say that this, that I'm working on the back, and that what I'm creating when I turn it around, I'd say that would be the front because it's so much neater. So, I'm going to do one more. Let's do one more. Light texturing would help hold the stringing material. Yeah, it would, you know, and especially after hammering this, having that nice flat edge holds it in place nicely, and the wax cord is really doing its job here. So I'm going to put in another strand of shadows, because why not? Yeah, 22 gauge, Eileen, I think would work nicely. I might even do something a little bit finer than 22 to have a little more of a fluid weave, but experiment with it. 22 gauge wire is one of my favorites. I use it a lot. Not too heavy and not too thin. I could call it the Goldilocks of wire, right? It's just right. The Irish wax linen that I'm using is a 4-ply. We have it in a few different plies, but in the colors that, whoops, that just fell right off my linen. I'm going to put it back on. The colors we have, we carry it mostly in the 4-ply. And this is chocolate that I'm using, but it would look nice also in a color. I had on my list that I might try forest green. That might be a cool color to use. So it just depends on, you know, what you're digging right now, what you're doing. So, hi, can we, I'm actually filming right now, so if you could just keep it down just a little bit for me. Thanks so much. Our water guy is here. We can't do without our water guy. Thanks, water guy.
I won't breathe.
That's okay. That's okay. You're saying hi to people all over the world. Thank you so much. That was our water guy. It's super fun to film in the middle of our office, right? Because you never know what's going to happen, including the water delivery. It's the beauty of going live. Hi, water guy. Right, yeah. He didn't seem too stoked that I asked him not to make too much noise, but whatever. Whatever, water guy. We're making jewelry here. So, there we go. You can see my armature has gotten a little bit tinier, a little bit more narrow up here. So maybe I want to start reducing the beads that I'm using. I'll put in one more row. Yeah, get some hydration, Anna. Let's finish it off with maybe 3 of these guys. Yeah, he totally didn't love that I told him to keep it down. It's kind of funny. Oh well, what are you going to do? And let's put this in. So, let's see where we're at with this design. Yeah, I can't wait to see your interpretation, you guys, of this. You could use fine gauge wire. Like you were saying, Sherry, you could use chips. That would be really cool. So, let's say, so we've got this here. All right, this is looking pretty good. Okay. We'll come underneath one more time. Now, what Tracy did on her earrings, which I loved, is she did a little bit of weaving. See how I've got a little bit of space there? I'm going to aim in, tighten in just a little bit here. And you can see how I've got a little bit of space there. What she did that I really dug is she just did a little bit of weaving. And I think hers might have been a little narrower. And Tracy, I know you're not watching today because you're going to watch this later on replay because you are, I think, at work, because some of us have to work, right? But I think your design that you did was a little narrower. And I'd love to know, I think you actually posted it on the page, what wire gauge and stuff that you used. But I purposefully didn't want to look at it too much because I wanted to kind of interpret rather than copy. So we're right there. We're kind of a little tighter. I think you guys can see that. Let me glance on it on my phone. So I'm just doing just kind of a little herringbone weave, going back and forth, to see through. I'll go one more time. But if you're going to search it on the bead table, you want to search Tracy with an E, T-R-A-C-E-Y, Watson, W-A-T-S-E-N, and if you search, put Tracy in the search box in the group page, I bet her post will come right up and you'll be able to see it. Let me push this down, really get that wax linen right in that little space there. Come on now. Come on, wax linen. Get in there. All right, perfect. There, I think that looks pretty good. Here's this. There's that side. I don't know, both sides look pretty good. But you can see on one side the weave goes up And on the other side, the weave goes down. I don't know. I think they both look okay. This little bottom Hishi bead doesn't want to sit, doesn't want to obey me here. So let's tell it what we want to do. Now, I guess you're wondering, like I am, what we're going to do with these closures. I don't know. We could do a couple of things. I'm going to continue. It's why I have this tail of wire still here. I'm going to wrap it up just a little bit more, a little bit higher. So I've got a little more space. And I can just bring my ends. I'm going to widen this up a little bit so you guys can see it. Make sure I'm in frame. Did she? She said she knotted and glued. That's good to know. I'm going to go ahead and knot here on the back, just an overhand knot. A Chinese knot. Yeah, Tam, not with this skinny thread, I don't think. But I do like that Chinese button knot. So I've done one overhand, and I'll come back in. Maybe I'll bring it back to the front. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just do a little square knot here. I could wrap the linen in, actually, with the wire, Tilly Thompson. Why don't I see... You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to unwrap this, because that is such a good idea. I'm going to unknot what I did. Bear with me here. I'm going to unknot what I did. We're going to use our wire straightener. You guys are so smart. We're going to straighten this out, kinda. Gently straighten our wire friend out. There we go. Knot two. Bring that back around like it never happened. Now, here are my pieces that I was weaving with. Let me put them back into place here. There we go. Now, my weave is coming out the front. I'm going to lay it along this wire. I'm going to hold that there, holding it nice and tight. And it's that first wrap of wire, if I'm going to catch everything. That has to be really, really clean. There we go. Just like that. And tight. If that wax linen is going to stay and not come out. Now I could, someone mentioned glue a little bit earlier. I could put a little dab of glue in there, maybe, if I needed to. But I'm not going to. I'm just going to make sure that this is nice and tight. I'm going to hold on to this portion of the earring now. There we go. Really get that nice and clean. Now it feels like this wax linen isn't going anywhere. So I'm just going to cut it off. There's no space. My wraps are nice and tight. There we go. Get that nice in there. Let me use my thread scissors. See if I can clip a little more of that off. There we go. All right. Now I can see a little bit of my thread there, which I don't love. So I'm going to go ahead and just wrap maybe once or twice more over that and see how that's hidden. That doesn't look too bad if I do say so myself. Then I'm going to cut away my wire. There we go. Shape it up if you need to shape it a little bit. I think that looks good. Now we have a decision to make. Okay. What do we want to do with this? We can add some beads if I wanted, and I do. I'll add a few of these beads in there. Maybe that's too many. That isn't too bad. Now, I don't know, maybe I don't like that either. Maybe I just like that shadow. Maybe I just like a little bit of blue. Maybe I just can't make up my mind. I don't know what you guys think. Maybe that's better. A little shadow and a little bit of blue. Or a little Heishi and a little bit of blue on top. Now this is 20 gauge wire, so it's pretty stiff. So what I can do is I don't want this loop to be, because there's a lot of length right here. So I don't want it to be too dangly and long. So I'm just going to make a rosary loop on this side. I'm going to cut. I'm going to use my round nose plier to roll that right over. And since it's going to go in an ear wire, I actually need to move it so it's facing forward, like so. Now I've got our bronze dot ear wires right here. I'm going to open that bronze dot up. I bet this will just slide on through the front. It will. I'm going to close it up. That's not too bad, if I do say so myself. Let me get in here a little bit tighter. I think when I do my next one, and I want to point this out at the bottom, where you might have a little bit of an issue, I didn't wrap my cord around or go back through this bottom cord first, so I might go through and reinforce it a little bit there. And I could, if I wanted to add some dangles to this, I could get my wax linen. If you don't like seeing all of this little lineup of wire wrap, I could just tie on a cord. Let me tie it and then I'll show you. Like this. And there we go, that's on there. And then I could just, you know, do some dangles from that if I felt like, or not. I could just, if I don't dig it, just cut it away. It's okay. Whatever works for you. I did want to show you one, get out of my way. Get out of my way there. There we go. So that's this guy here. And again, this neck I did, I don't know, 2, 4, like 5 wraps for this. You can do fewer wraps. It doesn't make any difference. Whatever works for you. But I think it's kind of cool. You just decide when you're working on what you want to make. You decide how many beads across you want to do. Okay, I have this skinnier one here, and I did want to show you one thing, like with this round one, or this rounded wire. Remember, when we started this broadcast, I used the wire straightener or the nylon jaw plier to kind of work harden that a little bit so our wire is round rather than flattened. But this is 18 gauge, so it's a little bit bigger. And you could just make a simple, if I made this armature here and I bent it here and I bent this one up and I just did kind of a single wrap around it. Let me hold it here with my plier. And I'll clip that wire away. So we don't have a lot of fuss up at the top. Then I can just come in, fix my armature a little bit, make sure, see it's a little wonky, so I want to fix it up a little. And so this shape is ready to go. Okay, so it just decides you can make that armature any size you like. It's kind of fun. I think it's kind of a fun project for you to play around with. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this camera around and keep it centered at the top. Yeah, I would say that, Janice, to keep that centered, you really do want to hold it fairly tightly with your chain nose. That's the thing. Yep, 28 gauge, Randy, you bet. 28 gauge wire would look fantastic with this too. We could also, let me just riff off that. I've got some 28 right here. Let me just show you. I was going to sign off, but let me just indulge me for 1 second while I grab some skinny wire, because I've got wire right here. This is 26 gauge, pretty thin. If you want to embellish this part a little bit more, you could do that by adding, I love this technique, we could add a few beads. And embellish the top of this. Oh, thanks, Debbie. Well, you're the only ones. Let's see, this and this. The earrings I'm wearing. Oh, sure. I'll show you those. I made them on another Free Tip Friday episode. Yeah, you could use the wire instead of the thread to wrap around the armature. Just make sure that that wire is malleable enough. Yes, look at that. That's not bad at all. There we go. I did this on the ones with the tassels. It's like I'm just a one-trick pony with this freeform wire wrapping, but I can't help it. I love it. Then we'll just cut away the extra. But this is how, you guys, I'm showing you how I experiment when I'm designing at my desk or at my studio. This is just how I do it. And it's fun to do it with a group or with an audience because you guys give me a lot of great ideas. There we go. Let's get a little close so you guys can see that finished look. That's not too bad. So, Tracy, thank you so much for your inspiration. I love your earrings, but I think it's a fun kind of riff on what you did there. At least I think so. It's really cool. All right. So let me turn this around. Let me turn this camera around. And we'll wrap this up. Oh, before I turn it around, you wanted to see the earrings I was wearing? You get it in frame. Why can't I find my... There you go. Richburg, find your light. There you go. This is with our 6-in-1 chain. And then I just did little wire wrap pearls on it with a wire wrap briolet. You can find that on Free Tip Friday. I don't think it was last week. Might have been the week before. So, let me turn this around. And we will bring this show to a close. There I am. There I am. Alrighty. Okay, well let me just double check if I have any other questions. Looks good. Now that I've taken this earring off, I'll take this other one off. I'll put this one on. See how it looks. I know, I love everything wire too. This isn't too bad. Not too bad of an earring. I think it's cool. So I'll finish the other one and I'll do a blog post so you guys have all the materials that I used, and we'll embed this video and everything so you guys can make some. So what's hanging on my jacket? Oh, I'll show you this real quick at the end while we're saying goodbye. This was a piece, a little medal. Emily knows how much I love medals and things, and this is an old medal from the Panama Pacific exhibition, 1915. It was the big World's Fair in San Francisco. So she found me this little medal, so I made myself a little badge that I wear on my jacket. Made myself a little award. So I don't know, it's kind of fun. Kind of a fun little bauble on it. So that's what's on my jacket. Well, thanks so much, you guys. You have a great weekend as well. Emily and I will be here on Wednesday for Facebook Live. Emily has a great seed bead school. We have a kit for it, and it's going to be perfect for Valentine's Day. It's a really, really great project. I can't wait to have her create with you guys. She's going to use, I think, brick stitch and all kinds of crazy stuff. So I'll be creating right along with you. So have a fantastic weekend. Check the blog in a little bit. We'll also link it in the newsletter so you can find all the details on this. And thanks so much for coming along on this ride for Free Tip Friday. We'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.